Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight. We want to say welcome to each and every one of you. Tonight, we're going to have our Word Wednesday Advent chat. So, we want to give you a few moments to hit share, hit like, and to also create a watch party. Once again, we want to give you a few moments just to share this feed with all the people that you know. I do believe that this is going to bless you, this is going to help you, and this is going to enlighten you. So, I am Bishop Allison Abrams, the pastor and founder of Empowerment Liberation Cathedral, and we're so excited to bring to you tonight our Word Wednesday Advent chat. And we have a very special guest with us on tonight. And so you do not want to miss our very special guest discussing with us on tonight mental health. And I want to, after 1 second, I'm going to bring them on, but I do want you to make sure that you hit like, I do want you to make sure you hit share, and I do want you to create a watch party. All right, so at this time, we want to bring on our special guest, Dr. Sherry Molock, and we have Minister Catherine McKay Page. So good evening to you. Good evening to you. Dr. Sherry Molock is the co-pastor of the Beloved Community Church, which is located in Accokeek, Maryland. So we're excited to have you on tonight. She is also a professor of psychology. I don't want to get it wrong. Is it Georgetown University?
George Washington.
George Washington. I knew I was going to mix that up. All right. This was George Washington. And so Minister Cat, we know is one of our ministers here at ELC, and she also works with the EJC Wellness Center, and she's a behavioral health specialist. So thank you so much for joining us on tonight. We look forward to a hearty, great discussion. And so, Dr. Molock, many people have experienced some mental health challenges during COVID. Some people have never had any problems with mental health, never ever felt any mental health challenges, but COVID has shifted some people into an entirely different place from where they have ever been in their lives. And so do you think it is due to isolation, and isolation possibly from human contact, isolation from normalcy, isolation from maybe just being able to get out, have a good time, and just kind of get some air? What do you think has plunged us into this space of what I like to call a COVID mental health crisis?
Yeah, that's a really, first of all, thank you all so much for having me here. I love your ministry and your church. And so it's a delight for me to be here. Thank you so much. So I think the COVID pandemic is, some of my colleagues call it a syndemic. It's like a tsunami within a tsunami within a tsunami. So we have never lived through anything like this before. And I think the people feeling really plunged in the depths of despair is a couple of things. First of all, we have a lot of stressors that are occurring at the same time, right? So you have the COVID-19 pandemic. We have, particularly for communities of color, we're disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. So because of underlying medical conditions and also health disparities, our communities are bearing the brunt of not only the hospitalizations, but also the deaths, unfortunately. You have people who are losing their jobs. There's no end in sight. And so we are also more likely to work in the kinds of jobs that get cut. In the hospitality industry, for example, Black people and brown people are more likely to work in those industries. And so they've also lost their jobs. So people have unemployment they're dealing with. We have a leadership right now in Washington, D.C. They cannot decide how to put out a stimulus package. And so people have been going without financial resources for a couple of weeks now. And again, the uncertainty of when is all this going to end we don't know. We're living through right now through an election cycle, which just ended, where the political rhetoric was at an all-time low, or more vicious than we normally see. So that was really stressful. And then the things that would normally be protective for us, like being socially connected, being able to gather together with family, but also in our faith communities, right? So we I know you have a relatively young congregation, and so do I. So for our congregation, switching to virtual worship services wasn't that hard to do because we have been using virtual tools anyway in other situations. And so for us to switch to Zoom land was not that difficult. But think about
Right.
congregations that weren't doing that didn't have a dynamic bishop like you, where your bishop has taught me some stuff about how to use Zoom. Okay, so, but not everybody has that, nor do they have a congregation that feels comfortable engaging and or using virtual tools. So that's also a challenge. And so all the things that faith communities do so well to protect us from the throes of mental health crises, like feeling socially connected. A concept I really love is called mattering, which is not that you're just tolerated or accepted, but you're celebrated, right? And
Yeah.
particularly in both of our ministries, because we both minister to the LGBTQIA community, that people need a visual representation of what I call your tribe. These are your people.
Yes.
So when you're in the middle of a COVID-19 pandemic, you may not be in a space where you can see your tribe. And so you can't be touched by your tribe. So the things that we normally would do to be of a comfort to each other and to support each other, and we know are protective against mental health crises, those protective factors have gone down at the same time that we have all this stress going up. And so social isolation is a real big factor. And we have to realize that, yes, the virtual tools are important, but there's nothing that can substitute for human touch. There's nothing that can substitute for a hug. There's one of our colleagues, I have several play sons in ministry. And one of the things they say about me is, you give the best hugs. I mean, I give you like a real hug, not a pat hug. I'm like, I give you a mama bear hug. So that we can't do that now, right? And so what can we substitute in the place of that? And that's what we're struggling with. And for the human touch part of it.
But doctor, let me say this, and then I want you to finish, but just put a pin right there.
Okay.
That elbow thing only worked for me for a little bit.
Right.
Minister Cat can tell you, we all tried that, we just happened to be out in certain spaces. But, I said, okay, I got Lysol and I have masks. I usually wear 2 masks. I don't just have just one. And I have gloves and hand sanitizer. So, and I have a washing machine, thank God. So if I hug somebody, I do have shampoo to wash my hair. We used to spray our face with alcohol, but I said, sometimes you just need to hug people. And I found that sometimes I was in places, like if I went out and somebody saw me that knew me and we've been away from each other for a long time, they just kind of naturally gravitated to me to hug me. And I said, people need this. And so I understand people who have compromised immune systems. I understand that totally. I wouldn't say do that. But me, I'm, 50, relatively healthy. I think only thing that bothers me is maybe my arm every now and then with arthritis. But other than that, I said, people need this. And so I needed it too. And so some people I will go ahead and hug because, I felt like I was starving at one point. I'm like, I'm not seeing any of my members. I hug everybody every Sunday, even the visitors, hug the babies, hug everybody. And I felt like I was starving. And so if I felt that way, imagine how the other.
So we had a Juneteenth rally because one of the things my church was known for, we march every March. So, it sounds silly, but we're not marching. So we had a rally outside because for us, it's part of it's almost like our DNA. We are really very social justice focused. So we had a Juneteenth rally outside the church. We socially distanced. But I remember all of us started crying when we just saw each other. Because at that point, we had not been in contact with each other for about 3 months. Everyone just started crying. We were just so happy to see each other. And because I am older and I do have a lot of underlying conditions, I don't hug, but and I don't encourage people to hug. So this is my sort of mental health / public health person side. It's like, don't hug.
Yes.
Don't.
Yeah.
But because the issue for us is also with appreciate is that you can be a carrier basically and be asymptomatic and spread it to someone else, and you're not sick yourself, and you spread it to someone else who could be really ill from it. And we've done 5 funerals since COVID-19 started. We've done
Right.
them. There have been not members, but we've done funerals for parents of members. Some of it COVID
Yeah.
related, some of it not related. And so that's such a good example of where Black folks, we got rituals and ceremonies around,
Yeah.
sending our loved one off as a celebration of life. Those
Yeah.
rituals, wake and the fellowship after and the repast, those things are healing. And now we can't
Yeah.
do that anymore. So we have to figure out how can we create new rituals and new celebrations that are going to be meaningful to us. Not the same thing as getting that hug. You're right, but the things
Yeah.
that can be meaningful to us, that we can still convey that we're socially connected and that you still matter in my life. Because I was saying about the mattering, you want to feel celebrated, and particularly for people who are oppressed in so many other areas of their life, mattering is very critical. You may
Yeah.
only matter in your church. You may not matter in any other space. And I used
Yes.
to jokingly tell the ministerial staff is everybody needs to be a king or a queen someplace. So figure out
Yes.
where that
Yeah.
is. It might be your
Right. Right.
house, it might be your
Your castle.
pantry, it might be in your
Yeah.
car. You need to figure out where can you be a king or queen someplace and bask in your
Yes.
queen and kingdom stuff. It's okay to feel that way. It's not arrogant. It's important for you to feel celebrated.
Yes, I think that's important. And Mr. Cat, I want you to tell Dr. Molock a little bit about how we felt when we weren't at the church for anniversary. Because, anniversary, churches have celebrations too that kind of make them who they are. And they're so proud to have these. And
Right.
so when church anniversary came around, we felt some kind of way. So, Mr. Cat, do you want to tell Dr. Molock about that?
Yeah, of course. It was um really devastating for us, and we as leadership, we have feelings. You know what I'm saying? A lot of us still wear our heart on our sleeve, and a lot of us, are vulnerable, when it comes to family and
Right.
having to turn on and off what's going on with the outside world, even with your family at times, to be God centered, to be able to help others. And we fiend for that service, and we fiend to get together, and we hunger and thirst for the fact of coming together in corporate worship. But we had our anniversary, and it was, we all knew it was coming. We all, did our preparation for it as we normally do a year before, months before. And just the thought of us preparing for that time on a social media platform and not being able to be together, we all knew it weighed a lot on us, but we never said anything, but we waited until that service. And it was like, oh my gosh, it was an emotional service. And everyone was trying to keep their composure and not being able to show their emotions and stuff like that. But after that service was over and the cameras was off, we was on our platform, wailing and not being able to celebrate our bishop, celebrate us as a community, us as a leadership, us as members, and being able to do what we normally do to even aid the folks that come in for the anniversary times. We used to have choir night, and everybody used to be there. We fellowship, and we have that emotions with each other, and being able to hold each other and hug each other and say, God kept us another year, and being able to celebrate that year of coming of age. And I mean, of getting older in our ministry. We still have a baby ministry, although it was like, our 6-year anniversary. We still have a baby ministry, but to other people it may seem long, but this was the most draining, emotional thing that we ever had to do inside of Empowerment Liberation Cathedral, less long than in the community or in our lives. So this was a big, big thing for us. So we had to come together, and the leadership and all of us made it our business to get to our bishop, because
I saw the
we
pictures. That
all
was
got in
wonderful.
cars and we decorated and
That was
we
wonderful.
planned. We had cake, we had balloons, we had the babies, we had everybody. We needed to see each other. We needed to commune in some type of way. So the desperation of wanting to be together had brought us together in that moment. And not being able to touch, we still didn't get that complete wholeness of what we were seeking after. However, but we were fed by
Yes.
being able to be in that space together. And we dominated the whole block. You know what I'm saying? Because we had to separate our cars and we had to be there. But at one point we just broke down and we was like, this is not enough. This is not enough. You know, but we were like, this is not enough. Oh my God, I just want to embrace
Yeah.
you. So it was hard. It was hard, but we got
But
a
look
chance
what you
and
all
opportunity
did.
to
You
be
all
there.
did. You all reframed that. So you did two wonderful things. You allowed yourselves to lament, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
You allowed yourselves to wail and get it out. And I think that's Christians, but we forget there's whole books of the Bible about lamenting. The Psalms,
Yeah.
different kind of
Yeah.
songs, but one of the predominant themes in Psalms is like, I am pissed off with you, God. Hey, I'm not liking, and I'm not feeling. I always tell God, I'm not feeling you right now. I feel like we're not in sync with each other.
Right.
I'm
Right.
feeling some kind of way, and I'm in my feelings, and I don't know if I'm supposed to be in my feelings like this, but I'm trying to be honest with God. So you allowed yourself to have that space, but then you allowed
Yeah.
yourselves to flip the script, right? And say, we can't celebrate the way we normally do, but we're going to celebrate.
That's right.
And look at the creativity you did. So I saw the videos and stuff, and you made your bishop cry, and she was like, I don't want to cry, but I thought that was wonderful. And it was wonderful that you all shared the rawness of that. Because I also think that sometimes as Black folks, we get too caught up in the performance of worship.
Yep.
And we want it to all be perfect. And I'm
Yep.
like, you know what? But that pouring out of love that you all had for her and for Bishop Diana was amazing. And so it showed how authentic your worship is and how authentic your ministry is, that you allowed yourselves to be vulnerable on camera and to say, it's not all, you all have a wonderful service. Your bishop knows I've watched your service, but you also have real moments and authentic moments where you're not afraid to be yourselves, all of who you are.
Right.
And I think that needs to also be shown. We can be that even people in ministry, and I'm so glad you're on here tonight, Mr. Cat, we get tired too.
Yeah.
We get weary too. We get overwhelmed too. We get frustrated. We feel depressed too. We get anxious.
Of course.
My husband and I were talking the other day about what Bishop already knows is I picked up 12 pounds. I'm trying to get back off. And there are days when she knows I work out. We're workout buddies. But then there are other days where I'm like, I'm gonna eat this ice cream because I want to. I'm just gonna do it.
No, that's right.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna do it. And I will tell myself now, you'll pay for this later on. But to sometimes just allow yourself to have human moments, right?
Absolutely.
Where you feel vulnerable, to stop for a second. And there's a thing called mindfulness where you don't critique or judge the way you feel. You just allow yourself to feel whatever you feel. I just
thank God for that because our spirits had lined it up tonight with, discussions that Bishop I've been having all during the week. And we had a real discussion today, her and I, on our work meetings and groups and stuff. We have to stay in touch with our human side. Because if we lose that, then how can we really relate to those who are still in a human state of mind, when we are trying to minister to them? Because everybody is not walking in that spiritual realm that we may be in or try to remain in. And we can't lose sight of what is real, what the realness of it. Yeah, God is real.
I have realized in all this stuff, and I've talked to your bishop about this a little bit. I'm one of those people who, not that I didn't believe in evil, but I'm very optimistic about everything. But I'm gonna tell you, the last 4 years, I was like, you know what, for real, there are principalities. I really understand that now. Before I would be, it's metaphor, but not like for real. There are principalities of evil.
Yeah.
And we have to acknowledge that means that there are going to always be people who are not for you. It's not going to be for you. And it has nothing to do with you and who you are. And the way we see that, unfortunately, is through this pandemic, because if people were for us, then we should not be disproportionately impacted by it.
That's right.
And there are people who are happy. They're good with not being for us, and they're also good with us being disproportionately impacted. And so, and that has to be, unfortunately, the reality that you see. So because of that, I was telling I have young adult children, I have to say to them sometimes, this is jacked up. It really is. But this
Yes,
is
it is.
part of your reality that you have to learn to navigate.
Right.
And so you
Absolutely.
can't let yourself get caught up with being real anxious and depressed because that's the reality. Because even in that reality, God is still God
That's right.
and God is still
Absolutely.
able. It's just,
That's
Absolutely.
and Bishop and I, we were in a meeting one time, and I said, you know what? Well, we're really good at Black people. We can know how to work around something. We got to work around principalities. Like, you know what?
Yes.
I
Yes.
see you for who you are. In a way, thank them for showing you clearly who they are. Thank you. I really
Absolutely.
got it now. It took me 63 years, but I got it now. So I
And I
understand
know
who you
you
are,
act in the car.
and then I will act accordingly. And it will not be to allow myself to not be able to function well. And I don't want to sound like I'm victim blaming because I'm not. But I'm also saying that the Bible tells us to be anxious for nothing. So when you're feeling anxious, the good news is we have tools that we can give you to help you deal with
Absolutely.
it. But don't let people's evilness make you
Yes.
despair because they're going to be evil. They were
Of
evil
course.
before the COVID-19 pandemic, they're going to be evil after that too. So
Absolutely.
that's a given
Yeah.
that's who they are, what are we going to do?
Right.
Absolutely. And that's a great lead in. How are we going to respond? Because how we respond, that's on us. But I do think we want to talk about, because you talked about don't be anxious, some signs of anxiety, because lots of people have come on to the Wellness Center and have inboxed me about anxiety. And so, what are some signs of anxiety so people can know what they're feeling? You know, sometimes people know they're feeling a little different, but they may not know how to name that. And so, we
Correct.
want to help people to know if this is what you feel. I don't want it to be like, oh, now that you know the signs, you just automatically have anxiety. No. Okay.
Right.
But I do want people to know some things to look for. So can you share that with us?
Sure. So there are different anxiety disorders. We're not going to be diagnosing that people,
No,
but
no.
there's
Yeah.
two things you can look for. So one is kind of a generalized anxiety where it's not like a panic or a sense of terror, but you have a sense of underlying dread and it's always there. And you just feel like something bad is going to happen, but you have that feeling all the time. And you may also have problems focusing or concentrating on things. You may have problems with your sleep. Unfortunately, we know that because this underlying dread is so distracting, it's hard for you to really focus and be productive. But sometimes we self-medicate through alcohol, through other sorts of drugs, through sex, through food. We do gambling, we do other things to take our mind and distract us from this sense of dread. And so that's one issue. And people who have that kind of sense of dread also tend to worry a lot. We call it ruminating. So all of us worry sometimes, but when you find yourself you have like a mental tape going on repeat, it's
Yeah.
like a loop and it's over and over again. You find yourself 2 or 3 hours away, you're still thinking about, well, what if, Big Mama and them don't make it? What if I don't get my job back by January 1st, because that's when I've run through my savings. And then from that, you run on to, then I'm going to get evicted, and then I'm going to be homeless. And then, as opposed to when I have clients, I said, come back, because none of that may happen, right?
Right.
So we're
Right.
not going to worry about what has not happened yet.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So and we'll talk in a minute about things to combat that. More commonly, though, what people will have are what are called panic attacks. Panic attacks in and of themselves are actually not that uncommon. And
Okay.
most people are surprised by that. So that can come in different ways also. You can have like your thoughts are racing in your head. You might have a really rapid heartbeat. You may have difficulty breathing. Some people will describe that they feel like they're having a heart attack.
Right.
Some people
Right.
will talk about feeling nauseated. And some of that is physiological. So when you're really anxious like that and your heartbeat is beating rapidly, your body thinks it's in what's called flight or fight. So your
Okay.
body is preparing for a physical emergency where you need to fight someone or run away. So that nausea comes up because all the blood literally goes to your extremities, to your arms and your legs, so you can fight or run, right? And
Yes.
that sense of in your gut is because all the blood has removed from your torso. The problem with that, though, is that physiologically there's nothing endangering you.
Right.
When your body keeps reacting like there is something that's in an imminent danger.
Mhm.
Your body is not meant to sustain that up and down, flight or flight
Right.
all the time. So it never gets to, it's hard for it to get to a stasis or to an equilibrium. And so after a while, what happens is you misinterpret those cues of your
Yes.
heart racing, I feel like I'm going crazy. Some people say I feel like I'm going crazy as real danger. There's not real danger in front of you. Or if there is something that's dangerous, your reaction to the danger is out of proportion to the actual real danger. So we tease my youngest daughter's petrified of spiders, and she'll scream and run and, and then I'll say to her, that spider, even if it's poisonous, is way over there, and you could just leave the room, or you could just hit it because you're a lot bigger than it. So even if it was poisonous, you're still much bigger than it. You don't want to step on it, go get a cup or something. And so that's what we would say. Your reaction to the spider is disproportionate to the real danger that the spider presents to you. That's what we mean by that. The thing about panic attacks that can be really debilitating, though, is what happens is a lot of times you don't have a reason for why you're feeling the way you do. Okay. So what you tend to do is associate where you are with the problem. So let's say I'm at Bishop's house and I get these funny feelings, and it happens a couple of times. And so I decide, well, I love Bishop, but I'm not going to go to her house because this is where I felt bad. So I'm not going to go there anymore.
Right.
Then you start to anticipate, well, what if I go to the store and I start getting that funny feeling? So then you have what's called anticipatory anxiety. You start having anxiety anticipating when the next panic attack comes. Right. And that really concerns us, because what can happen is you start avoiding situations, and your world will get smaller because of that. Because you start saying, well, I can't go to the movie theater because maybe I'll have a panic attack in there and I can't get out. Then I'm not going to go to the grocery store. What if I'm in the line and I can't? And in the middle of being in the grocery store line, I have these feelings, and now I feel like I have to leave. So I'm not going to go any place. And now I'm not going to get in my car and go visit my mother in New York, because what if I get on 95 North and I have this feeling and I can't get out the car? Or what if I go to Chesapeake Bridge and I can't get out? I'm stuck on the bridge. So what happens is your world gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then sometimes you develop something which is unusual, but it's called agoraphobia, where you can't go outside at all. So we want to help you way before you get to that point.
Yeah. But do you think that COVID and all of the news media discussions and all of the social media posts and all of that can cause people to have that, because they're telling you, oh, we first didn't know how people were getting it, but now we think it's airborne. And so, I don't you think that
oh, definitely. Yeah. So if you already had some problems with anxiety, it can make it worse. And if you've never had problems with anxiety, it can make you anxious. So I'm just being honest with you. I feel anxious. Yeah. And so I don't have anxiety disorders, but I can tell when I'm like, okay, for someone like me, because I do research in the area of health disparities, just seeing the numbers going up is very anxiety provoking for me. So I have to, but I have tools to use to not go there. So for example, I limit how much news I watch.
Yeah, of course.
I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news every day. If I do see it during the day, I might see it like I have a time, like 7 to 8 in the morning, or just say 6:30 to 7. And then I know that the Today Show comes on. I watch that. I know that second hour is when they do the fluffy stories. So I don't watch the first hour of the Today Show. I watch 8 to 9, for example. Or I don't watch the news at night. The whole day in and day out stuff, and when the different local jurisdictions get on the TV and do their new plan, I even stopped watching those, because I realized I have notifications on my phone and on my iPad and my computer. So whatever that plan is, it'll be on the notification. I need to know what that is, and I got it. I don't need to watch it all day. So for me, that's important, because I can get overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of it. And because I work in prevention, I get very distressed by this, because I just keep thinking this was preventable, and I get distressed by that. I'm also, I realize I have to really feed myself, because I'm responsible for, I have a family, I have a church, and I also have a responsibility as a professor to these young people who have also never done.
Right.
And they're super, super anxious. So I got to put my mask on first and make sure I stay even keel so that I can help pour out to other people. So I take a lot of things. I exercise, work out almost every day. And also the thing about I do meditation because you can't physically be relaxed and anxious at the same time. It's impossible. So I teach
I love that.
stress management for people once a week. I do my own meditation every day. I have apps on my lovely, we got our little Apple Watch, me and Bishop. It tells you when to stand up, all that stuff, all the tools you can use. There we go. So why? Because I need to make sure that I replenish myself, particularly during this time period. I read books every day. I play every day. I make sure I take care. I don't care what I have to do, what grant proposals do, what papers have to be graded. I still read at least an hour every day for fun.
And I think that's good because when COVID first started, I talk with people a lot about other things to do besides being consumed with what's on the news every moment and, what people are saying every moment. And sometimes you just have to turn that off. And what is it that gives you peace? What gives you solace? What makes you feel good? And so, my suggestion to people was play some music. Music is very consoling. So sometimes, you don't have to be listening to gospel just because I may like gospel. You may like jazz. Listen to that. You may like R&B. Go ahead and do what you do. But
absolutely,
at least do something that take you away. And then we talked about meditation.
Right.
So, Mr. Cat, we talk about that. We talked about meditation. People need to do that. And I'm so glad you said you can't be in a space of anxiousness and in a meditative state as well. So
absolutely.
I love that. Go ahead, Mr. Cat.
Absolutely. We also started Gospel Size, which we need to get back starting it up. We want to grab an audience and children. It doesn't matter who come, grandbabies, get your grandbabies out, get your pets out too. We can do the Gospel Size with them as well. And it's important to, exercise not only your body, but your mind as well, and be able to concentrate on something else other than the news. Like when we first started, we was like, oh my God, with all this presidential things and the COVID numbers going up, and people are calling and inboxing us with so many emails like, oh my God, every time I turn on the TV, it's a COVID. It's the news that 45 is on. Da, 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 da. I mean, I'm like, well, you have the power to turn it off. You have the power not to go to your Facebook. Put it on pause for a minute. You have that power to make that change, but you also have to replace it with something that is less stressful, so you don't feel compelled to keep going back to it all over again. So what we were doing on our groups is like talking to people who was having struggles with trying to find things to do and ask them, what are they good at? What are their hobbies? What is it, something that you used to do a while ago? Some people want to go back to playing music and studying music. Some people want to go back to writing that book that they wanted to write a long time ago. For me, it was photography, getting back into my photography and, going nature walking and different things, because I ain't going to the gym. Right now, I don't care how much they tell me that I can come for $1 all year.
I'm not going either.
They can have it. So I won't be going back to that place. Thank you very much. But, to tap into some new things or tap into some old things and make it new again, so that you will have something to do instead of sitting around just watching the news and hearing everything that everybody else is talking about, because it becomes overwhelming and it becomes the first thing you get up in the morning you think about. I was telling Bishop, I love music. I love all kinds of music, and anything that's going to relax me and take me away from that stress that I'm feeling or that anxiety that may be trying to come upon me. I find something to do in that area to help with that. And we have to encourage each other to be better for each other. And if you don't have that circle that's encouraging you to step out of that comfort zone or step out of that depression mode or whatever you're trying to go into, then we need to find other support, and other people that is in that place and that can support you at where you are at this moment, because it really can take you down. It really can take you down. So we are trying to encourage people to get out and do something. Like I used to go all the way to Bowie. Drive all the way to Bowie to go walk with my bishop, to go walk with our other minister, because I needed to get away from my four walls or my area or my community to see something different, because we're not able to go tripping like we used to. We're not able to go tripping like we used to all the time, because, so many people are afraid that, you should be careful, that, like you said, people are carrying that doesn't even know they have it. And you're not going to get a COVID test unless you ask to go get one, especially if you're not having symptoms. So that's
And the
the
other thing
number
I
one thing
like,
to
though, there
remember.
are basic things you can do. Everybody, if
Yeah.
you're able to walk, walking is good. Exercise is actually good for your mood, because when people are depressed, there's a chemical in your brain called serotonin. The levels are too low, and
Absolutely.
exercise increases levels of serotonin. Believe it or not, warm milk increases levels of serotonin. So that warm milk that your mom and your grandma used to give you before you went to bed, that's actually helpful too. So figure out ways, and I love what you say, go back to something that you used to love. What have you always wanted to do but never had time to do? One of the things, if you have an internet, there's a free class on anything.
Yes.
Find
YouTube have it all, step-by-step instruction. YouTube, woo, we be getting everything from YouTube, even how to fix my car. I stopped going to mechanics because they ain't there no more. So I had to learn how to fix my car, found out my battery was in the back of the seat. I was like, okay, in the floor. So, get back into some things and learn how to do some things that you always wanted to learn. And, you'll be surprised what you can come up with, what you can find, and, get that support system. Even if you have to go on Zoom and work together. I mean, who said you can't have a knitting class on Zoom? Who said you can't do that? There's a lot of things that you can do creatively to keep your mind busy and to allow yourself some time to heal from one incident to the next, or one
and
news.
particularly if you're single and living alone, stay connected. But also for those of us who are living in families, reach out to your single friends, okay? Because they may feel they're bothering you, or they don't want to, sound like they're whining on everybody. It's hard to live by yourself during times like this now. So we need to also be the community that God called us to be, and to reach out to them as well.
Great point. Great point. We got to reach out to those single individuals. Now, one of the things that has come to me also is that, persons are feeling depressed because life is not the same, or life is not what they're accustomed to, or because things that they expected to be able to do, they're not able to do, or certain benchmarks happen and they are depressed. And so I'll even say, when my benchmark came around, it was nothing like what I expected. I expected to have a wonderful, large gathering celebration, kind of what America does when people turn 50. And it was none of that. And so, I mean, we were online, and my wife did some things for me, and, leaders came together and also did some things for me. But, it still
But
was
you had a
not.
vision of how that was going to go.
Right.
And when you 40, you think about, oh, okay, so 50 is next, and I'm gonna do this, that. And so it wasn't that. So there are people who are depressed because they cannot do a lot of things they're accustomed to doing, cannot see people, some cannot date, and some are taking risks with dates. And so there are lots of things. Yes, y'all know people are doing some risky stuff. That's gonna be on another show. But so people are challenged, and so they're depressed because of the limitations of where we are with this pandemic. So can you talk some about what are some of the signs of depression? How can people really know that they're depressed? Because some people may just be down, but some people may actually be depressed.
Right. So that's a good question. Depression is tricky because depression is also a normal reaction to loss. So all of us are going to feel depressed sometime. You've lost loved ones. I think we forget that COVID involves a lot of loss. It's a loss of your life and your lifestyle that you knew. It's a loss of a sense of community. It's a loss of sense of touch. Some of us are losing health. Some of us are losing loved ones. So there's a lot of loss associated with COVID. But also, depression, you can think of depressive symptoms in groups again. So one group would be emotional symptoms, which would be like a depressed mood. You feel sad, you feel empty, you might feel hopeless, you might have poor self-esteem. You may have something we call anhedonia, which is kind of like things that you used to find fun, you don't find pleasure in anymore. So
Right,
a lot of the things
right,
that Mr. Cat was talking about, like photography, things that used to bring you joy, don't bring you joy anymore.
right.
For some people, particularly young people, they might not express sadness and tearfulness, but they might be irritable, angry, worried, or anxious. So those are kind of the emotional symptoms of depression. Then we have what we call cognitive symptoms, which are like your thoughts. The rumination I talked about earlier, where you're in that feedback loop and everything is so negative. It's that what I call the yeah but syndrome, where everything someone says, oh, but
Yeah,
you can get into photography. Yeah, but I don't have
yeah,
the kind of camera I really want. Well, use your phone. Well, yeah, but my phone is about to go on blank. Yeah, well, Verizon or AT&T or Sprint is offering free phones. Yeah, but it's probably So after a while, you're like,
yeah,
you're gonna
yeah.
yeah but yourself out of your blessing. Okay, so everything is not a yeah but. Also, sometimes people have, and this is one of the symptoms that's very common that people don't realize they're depressed, is you can't concentrate. And you will look up and time has gone by and you don't know what you were thinking about or what you were doing, and it's just slipped by you. And the reason for that is it's a physiological symptom of depression. When you're depressed, everything literally slows down, including your mind. And so your thoughts slow down as well. And so it is harder for you to problem solve effectively because your thinking is slowed down. It's also hard for you to be flexible in your thinking. So normally, like Bishop said, she had her 50th birthday, you can't come together. So then everybody said, let's do plan B. So plan B is let's have a virtual party. Plan C might be let's do a drive-by again, et cetera. Okay. When you're depressed, when plan A doesn't work, you stop there. You're like, okay, plan A doesn't.
Right.
Part of why you can't do plan B is that your thinking is so slow. It took a whole lot of energy to do plan A. You may not have the mental energy to do another plan. That's why community is so important. So because the goal here is when Bishop can't think of plan B, that's what Minister Cat's for. And when Minister Cat can't do plan B, that's what the deacon's for. So when you have a community, whether it's a family of origin or a family that you create, that family, part of what we have to do is come in and be what we call a holding environment for you. And so it's like, we got you and we're going to hold you up and carry you through this depressive episode. And you can lean on me. You could borrow some faith from me, because sometimes all of our faith tanks get a little on E, right? Like, but I got here's a little gas can. I got some extra gas for you. So I loan you some of my faith. And so so we can't, when people are depressed, we can't say things like, well, just suck it up or just get yourself together. It's not about willpower. Everything is physiologically slowed down. And sometimes people will even have thoughts of suicide. And so people will say, well, Christians can't think of suicide. Yes, we can. We're human. There are people in the Bible who were suicidal. Elijah was suicidal. Moses was suicidal. Moses gets overwhelmed trying to judge the people and tells God, I want to die. I can't handle this anymore. And so everybody has moments where they might feel so full of despair. And because your thinking is slowed down, you can't think of an alternative plan.
Right.
Then thoughts of suicide may become seductive for you because you're thinking, this is a way I can get out of feeling so horrible. Then we have behavioral symptoms, which are the feeling very tired. Some people literally, I've had clients who, our goal for the day might be for you to get up out of bed, take a shower. Can you go to your mailbox and get your mail? If you have, I love it when people have pets, because your pet will motivate you to get moving. Can you take your pet for a walk? Can you go feed your fish or feed your cat? Then the people also may, their hygiene may go down because they're just not motivated to shower, brush their teeth. They're not motivated to eat. Sometimes people lose a lot of weight. Sometimes people gain a lot of weight. And by a lot, we mean within a relatively short period of time, that you gain or lose 5% of your body weight. Some people are agitated and restless. Some people feel just making very simple decisions becomes very overwhelming. You may also cry for no reason, find yourself being really tearful. And then unfortunately for some people, there's problems as well. You can either have problems falling asleep, but more commonly people fall asleep and have what's called early morning awakenings. You wake up 2 or 3 in the morning and you can't go back to sleep. Some people have physical aches and pains. Black folks and Asian folks are more likely to complain about physical things. Your sexual libido may be way down. You're just not interested in sex anymore. That can create tensions with your partner, right? Your partner's like, "What's up?" And you're like, that's the furthest thing from your mind. Again, it's energy.
Right,
You don't
right,
have
right,
the energy
right.
to think about that at all. And so when you feel some of those symptoms, most of the time for 2 weeks or more, then we're concerned that you have major depression. There's another disorder called persistent depressive disorder, where people have lower levels of those symptoms, but for long periods of time, 2 years or more. And
Wow.
so one's not better or worse than another. Most people are like, that's worse. I'm like, look, in both situations, people don't feel good. And so that's the challenging news. But the good news is that there's lots of treatment available for depression. There is the M word medication. Yes, I advocate medication because it's not your fault you have this biochemical imbalance. And we wouldn't tell diabetics to not take their insulin. I have hypertension. You wouldn't tell me not to take my pills. I have an aunt who I love dear, who was going through some health challenges, and she was kind of writing her will and having us come, myself and my cousin, we're the executors for her estate. And so I had to tell her, my little cousin, I said, let me tell you something, you're scaring us. Okay, what's up with this? And she said, well, I have to take these pills for my cholesterol. I said, you think you're about to leave here because you're taking some pills for your cholesterol? She said, yeah. I said, girl, do you know how many pills I take a day? I said, I take 3 pills for my blood pressure. I got 2 pills for my asthma. I have 2 different inhalers. And I said, I'm healthy. I'm healthy because I take the medicine.
Right.
And she was like, oh, I was like, no, that's not, that doesn't mean that. I'm like, you're 80 years old. You've gone for 80 years and not taking medication. That's a blessing.
Right.
And so, and Bishop, I just started putting arthritic cream on my knees recently.
Oh, just recently? Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I still do my squats and stuff. So my point is that taking medicine doesn't make you weak. Medicine strengthens you to do the things that you want to do and you need to do. So if you need to take your Lexapro or Paxil or whatever, Celexa, take it because it's going to help. It's not a happy pill. No, it doesn't solve your problems, but it stabilizes your mood so that you can develop some tools so that you can combat depression. Do you have to stay on your medicine forever? Some people do, but some people don't. And so that's up between you and your physician to talk about that. But don't say that God doesn't condone medicine, because that's not true to the text. God always works with people. And the person that could be helping you is the physician, or it could be a therapist. And so for us to decide to tell God, the only way that I can be healed is supernaturally. You don't think the way those pills work is supernatural?
Yeah. Come on.
Don't think that the counselor telling you just the right thing and giving you just the right suggestion so that you can reframe your experience, that's not magical to you. I've been doing this 35 years. It's magical to me. Yeah. So it's still magical to me. Yeah. That our minds are so powerful that we can reframe how we see something. There's nothing more powerful than your mind. So why don't you give it some help?
Yeah, a lot of times we experience that even in, the Black culture and, things where people are so afraid of meds. I mean, I know a lot of times on coordinated services for people, individuals, and when a doctor mentioned that, oh, you have some depression or you have high blood pressure, most of the time they think this is the end. They say, I'm not taking that. That's the way to kill me, because we are uneducated. We do not know of that or what can help us. So I think that, with our, community or, with the people that we're working with, we have to educate them about the drug. I also tell them to take the name of it, research it, find out the side effects, find out what's what, see what it does for your body. Let the doctor know what other conditions or what other surgeries that you had so that they'll be able to match something up. It's not going to work the first time. You got to keep going on at this. Maybe that won't work for you, but they're just trying it. Don't give up, So I think a lot of times, we as in the Black culture, a lot of us, we're going to magically be healed, so, we are not going to do that. So a lot of people shy away from that. And, I've seen it in so many different cultures working with individuals, and we really have to, I have to print them out stuff, read this, read that, read all that, come back and find out, let me know what you think, what your thoughts are. You want to live with that, or you want to try to work on this? Because, especially with our young kids.
What Mr. Cat is saying is that you were not created to just survive. You were created to thrive and be celebrated and be
Absolutely.
all the wonderful you're supposed to be. So why would you let a disorder that can be helped keep you down? You don't have to be
Absolutely.
down. You don't have to just live with it.
That's right.
There are too many tools and there are too many treatments available for you to just quote unquote live with it.
Absolutely.
And I think it's kind of like if you go to a therapist, I've heard people say, well, that didn't help me. If you had a leaking faucet in your house and you had a plumber come and that plumber did not fix it, would you let your house flood or would you go get another plumber? You would go get another plumber, right? You would say, oh, that one didn't work out. Let me get another one. So why don't do that with our own health? I'm like, if that person didn't work out, go get another one. There are plenty. There's more than one out there.
Absolutely.
Dr. Molock, I know we're almost out of our time, so I do want you to talk a little bit about how to notice when there's depression in children. And then Minister Eliana, I want her to get a chance to ask a question after that. So
okay.
Talk about depression in children.
So believe it or not, children as young as 4 or 5 do experience depression. It's a little more challenging to figure out what's going on with them because they don't have the vocabulary to talk about feeling sad and blue sometimes. With young children, particularly adolescents, you might see irritability. You might see a change in their ability to do well in school. So your schoolwork might go down. They might be beginning to hang out with the wrong kinds of friends. The self-medication with using substances also unfortunately occurs. You also may see children isolate themselves so that they don't want to go out and hang out with friends or family anymore. Withdrawn, very quiet. I'm going to apologize because my dog wants to get in the room in here. She's going to start barking. But so they might, get really withdrawn and look sad, but sometimes very irritable. May act out in school or act out with parents. And so I think we need to take that seriously. I think sometimes we think that because they're kids, what do they have to be sad about? But remember, everything's relative, right? So it's kind of like when your children have their first heartbreak and you say to them, there's plenty of fish in the sea. And remember, this is the first time they went fishing, so they don't know that. So that's your adult perspective. But from their perspective, this was real love and it's heartbreaking. And remember your own first heartbreak. And so, so yes, you want to be in solidarity with them and support them and affirm their feelings, regardless of how old they are. And so if it's a 6 or 7 year old, that's rare, but it does happen, to affirm that, they feel sad and to talk with them about ways that they can cope with their sadness. And also, if necessary, to get them some therapy, some professional help.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I guess what I want to ask is, for adults, we have a lot of avenues to say that, we're not feeling that great. For children, they don't have that many avenues if they are with a family. And, historically, our culture, we don't believe in going to sit on a couch. That's what they call it, going to sit on a couch. So we don't believe in going to sit on a couch, so let alone our child needing to do that. So what's some language that a child could possibly use that would help us understand that it's bigger than this is a rough day?
You may not hear language as much as behavior. Okay. So pay attention to behavior, because that's one of the tricky things about diagnosing depression in children is that they don't have the language, and so they might, again, withdraw from friends and family. They may not want to play anymore. You notice that they're isolating themselves. You notice that they're withdrawing from people. The things that they used to do for fun are not fun for them anymore. They're not motivated in school. They're not motivated to engage with family members. So, one of the best predictors, believe it or not, of child outcomes, of child mental well-being is parental monitoring. Do you pay attention to your child? And when my kids were little, I used to tell them, if I don't know where you are, you're in the wrong place. You're always in the wrong place. So even now, with them being 26, 28, and 30, I make them check in. Now I tell them, you're grown, so you do you, but we all check in with each other to make sure we're safe. Yes. So you're going to hang out, and I don't want to, bust them, but if you hang out all night because you're grown, just text me to say, Mommy, I'm not coming home. Because I tell them, I don't know if you're in a ditch somewhere. I don't know if someone's harmed you. And so there's a sense we have in our family. We have a family mission statement on our refrigerator. And one of the first things on that mission statement is we are accountable to each other. So if I don't know where you are, then you're not being accountable, because I need to know you're safe. what you're doing is your business, but I still need to know you're safe.
Wow.
That's true whether you're 5 or you're 55.
Yeah.
That is so true. I tell my kids all the time, when they don't call me, I don't hear from them. I'm like, oh, you out of location. Because if you in location and you're doing what you need to be doing, then I will hear from you. Pick up the phone and let me know that you okay,
That you're okay.
you safe. That is so, because what you're doing is your business. But you're absolutely right. That yeah, I'm gung ho for that as well.
Particularly during COVID.
Yeah. Absolutely.
During the highlighting of racial injustice.
Absolutely.
I really need to know that you're okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
I like that.
You mentioned one last thing. You mentioned pets and how pets can cause people who are depressed to, kind of move some. Can you get out and walk your dog? And I have seen seniors who are by themselves, but they do have a pet. And so, do you think that the pet is helping with their
Oh,
depression?
definitely. Because part of what happens with depression is we get very insular, right? So everything becomes focused on me, myself, and I. And I don't mean in a selfish way. It's that you become very preoccupied with your own thoughts.
Yes.
And you become very preoccupied with how you feel. When you're anxious, that happens too. And also the anxiety symptoms are scary, right? So you're really kind of spiraling into, what is this? Am I dying? Am I going crazy? When you have a pet, it takes your mind off of self. And you have to focus on something else beside yourself. Pets also offer a lot of companionship in ways that are different from people. And one of the ways is that they're not judgmental. So your pet is not going to judge your mood, right? They're not going to go, oh, here we go again. Lord have mercy. Your pet loves you like it's the first time they ever met you, I love it. We have 2 dogs, and I always say, my oldest dog, Callie, because she's getting older, follows me everywhere. And I look at her sometimes and I say, you know what? I don't care what kind of day I'm having. You love me just for me. There's not too many people who love you like that. And so your pet can also provide a lot of companionship and support to you in ways that sometimes even people don't. But it also really helps you to get outside yourself a little bit and to be responsible for someone else. And I know, for clients that I have, I'm like, you may not feel like getting out of bed, but if you don't walk Fluffy, Fluffy's gonna poop in the house. So you got to get up and walk Fluffy. And maybe you just walk Fluffy in your pajamas and your slippers, that's cool. But at least get up and do something and be responsible for someone else. It's particularly helpful for seniors. Seniors right now are more isolated because if you're living in an assisted living facility, we have relatives like this, they may not allow people in and out to keep people safe. So they're even more isolated. Remember, seniors, a lot of their friends may have gone on to glory. So a lot of their support system may not be there. So we really got to reach out. I know with my mother-in-law, we do Zoom calls. Her birthday is on Friday. We're having a Zoom party where, my sister-in-law is going to take her out. So we're really, and she just lost her husband a little over a year ago. So, there a lot of loss. She's losing friends like every day. Sometimes I don't even want to tell her that who was passed on because it feels like every day it's another loss.
Right.
So, we want to really, really look out. Jesus is always going to judge us, I think, ultimately by how we treat the least of these. And the least of these are our children and our seniors.
Yes. Well, I know you kind of touched on it before, but we do want to leave people with what can they do to manage their mental health during the holidays, of COVID. This is the first time we've had holidays during COVID and prayerfully the last. But what can people do to manage?
So 1, minimize stress. Stop looking at the TV every day, or if you're doing it, do what we do. We binge watch Korean dramas with my youngest daughter. She's fluent in Korean. We watch these dramas with her. In fact, they're watching one right now. Be with family as much as possible. Keep your bubble safe, but if you can quarantine together or minimize being exposed, do that. If you can't do it in person, do it virtually. During this holiday season now, at least in my family, we're trying not to get so caught up in the commercialism of it. Let's focus this year on what we're thankful for. Maybe we don't need to spend a lot of money on presents and all that kind of stuff, particularly when people are financially strapped. What are there things we can do? We can volunteer, thinking outside of self for a minute. Can we go to a food bank where we can help box up and distribute food? Or can we go, we've been doing some clothing drives. So there are clothing drives that we can do. I know if me and Bishop both look in our closet and take all them shoes out that we no longer can wear, it's heartbreaking, isn't it?
Clothes.
Clothes. I was telling my students I was going to do this. I have on yoga pants and tennis shoes underneath of this nice top. And so I was surprised. I haven't worn heels in like months. I was like, wow, this is really different. But there are things that we can do. We can help other people is my point. And to focus on that. Don't let anybody be by themselves this holiday. If you know that they're seniors or single people, invite them into your Zoom family, make sure that everybody stays connected. Social connectedness is one of those things that's free, that is so important and can prevent so many problems. If people feel that they matter and they feel connected,
Right.
It's so important.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Sherry Molock, for talking with us at ELC on this evening about mental health. We so appreciate your expertise and everything that you have shared. It has been a great conversation. Again, Dr. Sherry Molock is the co-pastor of the Beloved Community Church, and you can look them up. Also, she is professor of psychology at George Washington University. And, she does so much more in the community. So thank you so much for joining us on tonight. Thank you so much again to Mr. Kat, Mr. Eliana, and to the wonderful deacons of ELC who welcomed Dr. Sherry Molock before we actually came on live tonight. So as we always say, don't forget to join us. Friday, we have our virtual Christmas Carol concert at 7 p.m. So we'll be on for that. And then on Sunday, we have our worship service. And next Wednesday, we have Dr. Imani Woody, who will talk with us about the seniors and their isolation. So we're just trying to give you some information during this Advent season. So God be with you. God bless you. And may God keep you during these challenging times.
God bless you all. Thank you all so much for having me.
Good night.
And just keep on doing the good work of the Lord.